Top 10 easy to grow vegetables for beginners. G'day, folks. Greg here from Small Space Produce. We're sitting in the caravan here at beautiful Mount Field. It's pouring with rain outside. The plants are loving it, but we sort of love being snugly tucked up in here too while it rains out there, and we know our little friends out there are getting a good drink. So we thought, what better time then right now to share with you some of our top favourite vegetables to grow. Now, my disclaimer is they're not all technically vegetables. Of course, there's some herbs, there's some fruits if we want to get technical, but essentially our top 10 edibles to grow. I think we've all been beginners once upon a time and wondered where to start, what to grow, what brings the most reward. So I guess this is a list of, and a bit of a culmination of those things for us. So yes, admittedly, there are some slightly easier things to grow than some of the things on this list, but all of these are relatively easy things to grow and they bring great rewards. So they're essentially our top 10, and we really hope it does bring you a few thoughts on what you might be able to start with or might be able to change in your yard as well. Now, a number of these can be grown in pots, they can be grown in raised garden beds, they can be grown, some of them in shade sort of areas as well. So we'll sort of go over the pros and cons of a few of these, but it's going to be mostly pros because, of course, it's our top 10 favourites. So let's jump straight in. All right, now strawberries. Look, they just a favourite, always a favourite. They're so easy to grow. I think the first thing to say with strawberries is they grow in just about anything. You can grow them in glass jars, you can grow them in tin cans, in hanging baskets, in garden beds, in stackable vertical towers, as you've probably seen in some of our earlier videos. They're just so easy. In fact, some great designs, even getting some old guttering and drilling some holes in that and running it along your fence line. You can grow strawberries in there. So they're just a really, really easy one to grow that doesn't need a lot of space, but the amount of strawberries you can get off just one plant is extraordinary. And of course, the colour, the way that they look, will lift any space, whether it's indoors or on a balcony or in a garden. They just capture people's imagination, strawberries. So they really can be used as a bit of an ornamental piece as well if you put a bit of planning into where they go. But of course, the taste, a strawberry fresh off the plant is just so sweet and so juicy compared to the ones you buy at the supermarkets. And of course, the cost, they're damn well expensive, strawberries. So just another reason to grow them. I can't say enough good things about strawberries, but I'm going to say one more. From one plant, you can just keep making more and more and more strawberry plants because they send out their runners. You can wait till they're developed a bit, chop those off and then replant them once they've got a little root base, and essentially they're just growing new strawberry plants. And look, your original strawberry plant will sort of decline over time, and by about the 3-year mark they've probably done their bit, but you can keep harvesting those runners essentially and growing new plants from them. So get around the strawberries, they're a fantastic one. Cons, look, growing from seed is a bit of a challenge. If you follow the instructions on the seed packets, you need to chill them first, and that will greatly increase your likelihood of seeds popping up. But look, for strawberries, we find that they're not extortionately priced at nurseries, and the fact you get so many runners from them and can keep growing them, that's where we would get them most of the time. So get around strawberries as one of our absolute top 10. So many different types, we should say as well. All right, next up, tomatoes. You can't go wrong with a tomato. There are, again, just like strawberries, so many different types, different flavours, different shapes. And again, they're just fantastic to grow in pots, particularly self-watering pots. They do love sunlight, but they will do okay if they're not in sort of absolutely full sun. But they're just such a rewarding one to grow because the plants grow so tall. They've got a really nice shape to them. And, of course, as those tomatoes start ripening, you can watch it from beginning to end, from the flowers all the way through. And just that exciting bit of going through and selecting your tomatoes for your toasted sandwich or the meal you're making or your salad. And again, when they're fresh, just so nice. We're fans of both your sort of standard big tomatoes as well as your cherry tomatoes, but I must say I think cherry tomatoes particularly that are grown at home and just plucked, they're a lot juicier and a lot sweeter, I think, and grown the right way, they don't have the sort of thick skin, so they're really, really nice to eat straight off the plant or straight off the vine. And you can really choose your tomato based on your situation. So there are some that grow sort of a bit shorter, and they're sort of dwarf tomatoes, and there are others that'll grow really tall. And again, just a wonderful one to get a lot of life, a lot of colour, and a huge amount of produce from them. Relatively easy to grow from seed as well, very easy, really. And a tomato plant, you've got a year essentially before they're not fantastic anymore, but so easy to grow again just from seed. You need to make sure if you're in an area with frosts, you wait until that last frost before you get them outside, but you can always start them inside to get a bit of a head start for them or have them nicely protected if they're going to be outside. So they are very thirsty. They do need a lot of water, and that's where your self-watering pots will do so well for them. But they'll still do fine in ground, and particularly in raised garden beds as well, as long as you keep that water up to them. And they are quite hungry little feeders as well. But if you haven't grown a tomato before, go and get yourself one and have a crack. It will change your life. Everyone has to grow tomatoes at least once in their life. Now, the next one we want to share is the zucchini or the courgette, I think as it's called in other places. Look, zucchini's not our favourite food to eat. We'll be absolutely honest. Extremely good for you, but a huge amount of fun to grow. That's for sure. So even in some of our prized little pockets where we grow our vegetables, we do sneak in a zucchini here and there. They do grow quite big, but the leaves are really attractive, and then you see these beautiful flowers come out, and then the zucchini will follow behind there. But I got to tell you, these things grow at a rate of knots. It is like a vegetable on steroids. Every time you turn around, they seem to grow about 50 foot longer by the time you come back. Incredible amount of produce again you can get from just a couple of plants. So if you manage them really well, and when I say manage, you hardly have to do anything really, but just don't let some of the zucchinis get really, really big, and because they will get huge, like the size of a button-up pumpkin. Don't let them get too big and then stop the plant putting effort into more little zucchinis. So, look, again, great to throw into a soup, or maybe grill them a little bit of seasoning and stuff on top. But still not our favourite, but one that we will have in the yard every single year because they're super easy to grow, super fresh. Again, you can grow them in a pot. You can, I think, raised garden beds are also wonderful for them and in ground. But I just find in a pot, particularly, I think just getting them up off the ground a bit, but just having to manage where the zucchini sit is the only thing. But certainly one of our top 10 easy ones. And if you are a beginner, fantastic one to throw in the ground. Probably the blackjack, I reckon, is our favourite one and does really well. Silver beet and spinach. Well, look, while we're on not our favourite vegetables, but again, ones that we eat a lot, silver beet and spinach are just fantastic to throw in the mix. And if we're going to be sneaky here, we'll probably add kale onto this as well, because as they grow, with all of these, silver beet, spinach, and kale included, you just harvest the outer leaves and they'll just keep growing and keep growing. So you do need to manage a little bit when they sort of start going to flower. You just want to nip that off, otherwise it'll stop producing those leaves. But that's easy enough to do, and they will all grow in part shade as well, which is great. And look, spinach, yeah, certainly not the most delicious, but again, mixed with things and cooked the right way, like my dear wife's spinach pies. If you ever told me I'd eat a spinach pie, I would have laughed at you. But delicious, and especially delicious when it's fresh spinach from the garden. They're just a great all-rounder. Grow them in pots, grow them in anything. They'll grow so well. You don't need heaps of them to grow enough that you will literally be able to eat it whenever you want to, and a fairly long season for them to grow as well. So you've got to eat your greens. They're good for you. They give you nutrients, and they're so easy to grow, so they have to make it into our top 10. Now, snow peas, they are just fascinating to watch. In fact, we've got some growing in our lounge room at the moment, just up a little trellis, just to see how that goes, and they are going super well. Look, a fresh snow pea, just have a chew on that or dip that in some sort of sauce or throw it in a salad. Even mixed into the right salad sandwich, they go okay. Or into a nice pasta, you can add them in there as well. But look, fascinating to watch. And I know that we've slipped them in the easy category for beginners, and that's because they are so easy to grow. Where you might have to penalise them a couple of points is they do need something to grow up. So some sort of trellis, something for them to support themselves. They'll send out little tendrils that'll basically grab onto the trellis and hold themselves up as they grow more and more and more. But a handful of these plants, and you will have salad bowls of snow peas. You'll be giving them away. Everyone will be sick of them. You'll have so many of them. And super easy. Just keep the water up to them and make sure they can grab onto something. So you can get a bit inventive with that. I mean, they'll hold on to fences. Just get an old cheap bit of wire, bit of plastic, bit of chicken wire, attach that to something, a few bits of strand wire. Like, you really can be a little bit inventive with them. So maybe that takes them just out of the totally easy category where you throw them on the ground and leave them. But look, even if you want to just put 3 sticks in the ground and make a teepee and put a few snow peas in the middle, that will do. So super easy to grow and very, very rewarding to see the produce just grow and be able to pluck them and eat them fresh, straight off the tree, off the bush. I'm not sure. Off the snow pea plant, we'll go with. Now, we've been a bit sneaky here. I know it's the top 10, and I've already slipped in spinach, kale, and silver beet together, and I'm going to do the same with herbs. We're just putting them collectively as one of the easy top 10, but we'll mention a few specifically. You can see our other videos that we've made on herbs. You can see our herb garden on our windowsill. You can see why everyone should be growing herbs. Super easy to grow, and of course so expensive to buy at the stores. I will harp on about that. One of the more expensive things you can buy and one of the easiest things to grow. So consider a herb garden, even one garden bed or a couple of big pots. You can have mixed herbs all growing together and again create a really unique ornamental piece. So the 3 I'm mentioning today are rosemary, thyme, and mint. Now, rosemary, you don't need to do anything special. They're actually a fantastic plant to have in the garden. They grow these nice purple flowers. They also attract in your pollinators and your bees and things. So if you do have other things that require pollination, having some rosemary plants around will really help all of those vegetables and fruits as well. But you can also grow them in a pot, and they look really ornamental and really nice. And the one thing is, if they are in a pot and you do require pollinators at another site, you can move the pot to where you want to attract those pollinators. So that can be quite a handy little advantage, just a little bee attractor. But of course, just chopping sprigs off those, fresh rosemary with your spuds, absolutely marvellous. Now, thyme's another great one. It's just used on everything from pizza and all sorts of different things. And again, you can do a really nice hanging pot with those. There are sort of ground creeper versions if you want to cover up a patch. They do well in garden beds as well, and even indoors if they just get a little bit of light in the right spot. So they're one that everyone should have and not be buying fresh from the supermarket. Now, mint is the other really unique one. I'm going to give some strong advice with mint. It's so easy to grow that once you start, it will take over your entire garden. So don't let it show you how easy it is to grow. Make sure you are in control of it very early. So we grow our mint in pots, and again indoors, because you don't need a lot of it at a time, and they look really nice. And something like, if you've got a big jug of water, you can just slip a few pieces of mint in there and it'll give a really nice minty flavour. But again, just they grow so fast. Very thirsty, but they grow so fast. So look, consider lots of different herbs, but I'd start with these 3. As long as you give them a bit of water, they're near impossible to kill, and they just grow so well. So they should definitely make our easy ones for beginners. And just like the other ones we've mentioned today, they're so functional, you're going to use them all, which is the whole point of growing things. Now, capsicums and peppers are the next ones we'll put together. Same family, so I know we're giving you 2 again, but they're very closely related. Capsicums are one of my favourite things to grow, especially ornamentally. So, of course, there's green ones, yellow ones, orange ones, red ones, or often it's actually the green one becomes the red one if you leave it for long enough. But I love the shape of the plants and the fact you can, again, grow them in pots in veggie gardens or straight in the ground. But watching this giant capsicum grow and how well it's sort of supported by its own little plant is just fascinating, and they look wonderful in the right spot and in the right pot. And again, they taste quite different to one from the supermarket, and they last quite a long time when you pluck them fresh. Very, very good for you. A lot of good nutrients in there as well that you can slip into a number of things. And of course, chilies, you don't need a lot of them. Just one plant, you'll be amazed how many chilies you can get off them. But there are different varieties and different sort of strengths of heat as well. And I've always grown my chilies in pots because, again, I think they look wonderful and they do really well in a pot. In fact, there's one in our bathroom just sitting next to the shower that's just grown a nice big chili on that one. But they're wonderful ones for beginners just because they are so easy to grow. And again, with colour and life and size, you get that really nice feeling of reward as well. So, great one, I reckon, to consider as a little plant office as well, having a little chili. And, maybe it comes to the Christmas party, you can have chili eating competitions. Who knows? But it would look marvellous in an office space. It's so different to your sort of standard plant that you might have in a windowsill. Now, potato, we all need to stop and take a moment and appreciate a potato at least multiple times a day. If you've watched our other videos, you will know that we worship potatoes, and we worship them when they're grown fresh at home because they taste so different to the ones that you buy at supermarkets. So, look, potatoes, again, now we're going, well, are they easy? Is it the reward? Look, absolutely. Growing some rocket or some mustard greens is probably easier than a potato, but they don't make the top 10 for us because they're boring. Potatoes are still really, really easy. You've just got to do a tiny bit of research in how to grow them. You don't need big spaces. So if you'd like more information learning how to sort of grow potatoes without going to all the detail now, have a look for our video that is titled Sprouting Potatoes, and that will teach you everything that you need in order to prepare your potatoes the right way, because that's how you'll really maximise your harvest. But essentially, watch that. I think it goes for about 10 minutes. Get yourself some seed potatoes. And look, if you want to be super lazy, just sit them in a lit room until they start to grow and then chuck them in the ground and you will get potatoes. But a bit like our mints, they can take areas over a little bit. So we love grow bags. We grow them in grow bags like the photo you can see right there. We also love the hilling technique, which again you can see in another video we'll produce very shortly, or find that info online. It's really super easy, where you simply keep stacking the soil up as the plant grows and more potatoes will grow. But something you can just throw under the dirt, give it a little bit of water, and then pluck out these little goodness things. They have to make the top 10 list because they're really not that difficult, and the reward of a fresh potato is something I can't even put into words. Okay, now radish is a bit of an odd one. We don't eat a lot of radish, but it's just so easy to grow. One of the easiest, just plant them where you're going to pluck them. Literally throw the seed in the ground, give it some water, watch it grow. It's 6 to 8 weeks, or depending on where you are, but essentially they grow really fast. You pluck them out and you're good to go. So you can see there on our presentation there in the ground, and then when you pull them out, literally that after a little clean, and you've got yourself radishes. They are certainly one of the easiest ones to grow. Probably not something you eat a heap, so we mix them in things like pasoli and some salads and things like that. So certainly worth looking up a few radish recipes, because you're going to be growing them now because they've made your top 10. Fairly shallow rooted, so you can do them in pots as well, fairly thin pots, which is just a great advantage too. So don't discount the radish as one of the top 10 as something a bit unique, and they get a lot juicier when you've got them fresh as well. Now, probably my surprise one at the end here, just as we wrap up, is raspberries. Now, you won't often find raspberries mentioned in people's sort of easy vegetables to grow. Look, it is interesting. I've seen a lot of different videos and articles about the easiest vegetables to grow. And as I said, I know there are some that might be a bit easier, but it's also about reward. So all of these I still classify as easy. But raspberries particularly, they sort of get discounted because people think of these big thorny things. You can even buy raspberries these days that don't have thorns, if that rests your mind. But again, our berries, like our strawberries and like our herbs as well, at times are so expensive in the supermarket and really quite easy to grow. Now, the best way to grow these, you do need a little bit of depth. I'm going to really suggest a raised garden bed, because you do want to keep these under control. You don't want them taking over whole areas like you might have seen with blackberries. So, like, I've grown these for years just in a small raised garden bed, and the amount of raspberries we get when they're fresh, they are just delicious. But please note there are two very distinct different types. There's primocane and floricane. Okay, it might be said differently depending on where you are, but essentially the difference is one type of raspberry will grow raspberries on the first year canes. So the cane will come up and raspberries will grow in the first year, whereas floricanes, the canes will come up, nothing will happen for a year, and the second year is when you get the raspberries. And I find them a lot harder to manage. So even though they're still fine, that takes them out of the easy category, which is what we're talking about today. So you want to focus on the ones that grow in the first season, so your primocane. And look, literally, you just need a garden bed. Go and buy some bare root canes from your local nursery. Plant, we usually have about 10 in there, and let them grow for the season. Pluck your raspberries. Once they've died off and the raspberries are finished, chop them down to the ground and leave them for another season. And literally the next season, your new ones will come up, and you just repeat that procedure year after year. So it's really quite an easy setup to get maximum reward, and that's what we're after in this case. All right, folks. Well, I know I've yaffled a lot today. I know that's a fairly long video, but I think when we are talking about some of our top 10 favourites, it's really important you know the reasons why we're so passionate about them. You know we're passionate about growing things in small spaces as well, and nearly all of these fit that bill where you could grow them if you only had a balcony and pots and planters, or if you have a lot of room as well, but you're trying to create an ornamental area, these things will still work. So while these are our top 10 easy to grow vegetables, they're also ones that made the grade because they bring great reward, or they look fantastic, or they taste so much better than ones you buy from the supermarket. So if you're really umming and ahhing, use this list. At least try and pick 5 of these if you can, but if you can squeeze in all of them to start your veggie garden or container garden, these ones should not let you down with just a little bit of soil prep, bit of basic love and care, and then just watch the marbles grow. So really appreciate you joining us. If you have any comments on your favourites below, please feel free to leave them. And of course, if you would like more information from any of our videos or want to keep up, then give us a subscribe. We'd really, really appreciate that as well. So this has been Greg from Small Space Produce and Top 10 Easy to Grow Vegetables for Beginners.